I want to restart. Okay, good. So we do have two public commenters, and we will start with the first one, which is Dr. Chantilly Dodson. Please introduce yourself, and you have 5 minutes for your comments.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Chantilly Dodson. I'm the head of medical affairs for Astellas, the manufacturer of fezolinetant. I want to thank all the patient representatives and the clinical experts. This has been a really engaging discussion about an important area of unmet need. I do want to address a couple of things just to share with you. We had also voiced our concern around the timing of this assessment, and we had shared that with ICER previously. We have been very diligent in getting our data out there and disclosing our data. We did not have final study reports on this data until late spring, early summer, and have quickly turned that around. All of our key data has been presented at key congresses, including ACOG, NAMS, ENDO, and IMS. And our 3 clinical trials are currently under review in leading journals. So we hope to have that information available to you very soon. And I know as journal editors, you understand our inability to comment further on that data. I also want to clarify that in all 3 of those studies, that there is data beyond 12 weeks. Those studies were extended to 52 weeks for safety assessment. So there is 52-week safety assessment in those 3 studies, as well as efficacy, which was persistent throughout that time period. And I also appreciate the discussion on clinically meaningfulness, because I think that is really important to patients. And unfortunately, in this particular area, menopause experience is different from every woman. And it's very difficult sometimes to assess that clinical efficacy beyond an individual woman. So I want to make sure that we have a very patient-centered approach here. We've heard a lot today about the impact that VMS has on women, and I won't reiterate those, but it's a definite important impact on women's lives. And despite the fact that it does impact their lives and that there are effective hormone treatments as well as non-hormonal psychotropic agents, an estimated 60% of women with moderate to severe symptoms, they seek medical attention, but 70% of them remain untreated. And that's for many different reasons, including contraindications, adverse events, tolerability, the fact that they just don't want to take hormonal options. And this need is real. Hormone therapy, if we all remember or can reflect back, was introduced in the 1940s, and there really hasn't been any innovative treatment options until now. At Astellas, we've interviewed more than 6,000 physicians and 8,000 women experiencing VMS to really have a very patient-focused development program. And what we've learned is that there is a lack of knowledge with healthcare professionals around VMS and the mechanism. And there's new science. You heard earlier in the presentations about the candy neuron and the disrupted balance between estrogen and neurokinin B. It's clear that HCPs and patients want alternatives, and only 26% of HCPs are actually satisfied with the current treatment options. So this leaves a big gap for many women that are feeling frustrated, unheard, and even dismissed. And I know that you'll hear that from a lot of the patient organizations. Women want alternatives to hormone therapy. As has been discussed, we are currently under review by the FDA. And if approved, we will provide a new targeted non-hormonal treatment option with a novel mechanism of action for women who are currently untreated or that are just in need of an alternative. As mentioned earlier, fezolinetant is a selective NK3 receptor antagonist. It blocks a specific receptor in the temperature control center of the brain, the hypothalamus, to reduce the frequency and severity of moderate to severe VMS associated with menopause. In the Skylight 1 and 2 studies that were mentioned, fezolinetant reduced the frequency and severity of VMS through 12 weeks, with improvements sustained through 52 weeks. And across a wide range of women, regardless of their age, their race, ethnicity, BMI, smoking status, and it included surgically induced menopausal women. The safety and tolerability was confirmed in a 52-week Skylight 4 trial, which is also under review currently for publications. And all of these showed a statistically significant improvement versus placebo in things like quality of life, patient-reported sleep disturbance, absenteeism, presenteeism, activity impairment, and overall work productivity loss. And although that we're currently under review, we are confident that fezolinetant has the potential to deliver great value. However, again, to reiterate the timing, we believe that any final conclusion from ICER around value is really premature at this point. We believe that the structure of ICER's model the economic models is a little overly simplistic and doesn't adequately reflect the value that we believe fezolinetant will offer to patients if approved by the FDA. It doesn't capture the different durations or discontinuation rates, which often result from different efficacy, side effects, onset of action. As also has been raised today, we still have concerns with the fact that the reference to the 30 milligram and the 60 milligram data in the ICER report is imprecise, it's confusing, and we would ask ICER to reconsider and strike that from the report. We reiterate also that ICER and any stakeholders crafting policy around women's health really need to recognize the importance of a patient-centered approach that stresses shared decision-making and considers risk, benefits, goals, and individual preference as recommended by guidelines from multiple professional organizations. And I know that shared decision-making has been brought up here today, and we appreciate that. There is a risk that payers and policymakers will impose limit on women on the use of these new therapies, and we really need to be patient-focused. We believe you have the responsibility to listen to women who are clear that they need more choices and not limit them. So in conclusion, if approved by the FDA, fezolinetant will be an innovative, new, targeted, non-hormonal treatment option for women. It will help fulfill significant unmet medical need for women who are currently untreated or in the need of an alternative. And we want you also to know that as a company, an organization, we are fully committed to generating additional clinical and real-world data to help address any unanswered questions and future evidence needs for patients and healthcare professionionals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And thanks for being here and representing your stakeholder. Okay. I'm just wondering, David, if you have something you want to say, please go ahead.
Sure. I just wanted to ask Dr. Dodson, thank you. You had said that all of the key data had been presented, and I was just at conferences, I was wondering, did we miss a presentation of Moonlight 1? And when you said that there are 3 trials awaiting publication, does that include Moonlight 1?
So the 3 trials that have been presented that I mentioned were Skylight 1, 2, and 4. And that data has been presented at ACOG, ENDO, IMS, and NAMS. Moonlight has not yet been presented. It has been disclosed in a press release, but will be presented in the future. And that is a non-US trial that's not part of our FDA filing as well.
So even in the FDA filing, we won't necessarily have all the data about a negative trial of your drug.
Are you referring to the data with Moonlight?
Yes.
Yes. No, the FDA is provided with all of our data, including Moonlight.
Okay. And is Moonlight one of the 3 trials awaiting publication right now?
No, again, that's Skylight 1, 2, and 4 that are all under review for publication.
So why wasn't Moonlight, this negative trial of a 30 milligram dose, made available to ICER so that we could better incorporate it into our review?
So just to be clear, the timing of Moonlight is fairly recent if you look at our press release when we released that data. So we just got the study report. It is an Asian study, and we will be disclosing that data publicly beyond what we've disclosed in our press release.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We do have time, so I'm going to actually take a question from Dr. Kerfman and then Dr. Grady, and then we go to the next public speaker.
Thank you, Reem, and thank you for the presentation, Dr. Dodson. Your last sentence, you indicated that you and your company are interested in gathering more data. So I'm wondering, when are you going to launch a head-to-head comparison of your drug with MHT?
So we're talking about a lot of different areas of interest for research, and we'll prioritize those based on where we believe the efficacy needs are once we have FDA approval. That's obviously an area of interest for us as well, and it's currently on the list. I can't comment on when exactly each of those will be planned. I think our first priority will be to generate a lot of real-world evidence to the point that's been made here today. And I think Dr. Grady made some really good points about, when you enroll women with moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms, that may be very different from women who only have 4 or 5 a day. So really getting some real-world data will likely be our first priority. And that will also include data looking at women who are receiving other therapies.
Thank you. Dr. Grady.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Dr. Dodson. I noticed from the presented materials, and I congratulate you on extending the studies up to 52 weeks. The FDA only really requires 12 weeks, which is, ridiculously short for assessing adverse effects. But I also saw that you assessed endometrial safety with endometrial ultrasounds and so forth. Is there any evidence that this pathway would have anything to do with the uterus?
No, Dr. Grady, but as you can probably imagine, from a regulatory perspective, at least historically in FDA guidance, that is something that the FDA wants to have evaluated. And to support that, we fully evaluated that and did not find any indication of any challenges.
So in addition to endometrial ultrasound and I guess biopsies, if you had to, what else were you looking at? Just routine blood tests and self-reported adverse events?
As far as safety?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Routine blood tests and safety.
Okay. Excellent. And thanks for that clarification. I think with that, we should move to our next public speaker. And that would be Dr. Irene Ananya. Please go ahead, introduce yourself, and you have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, and thank you to the Institute for Clinical and Economic Review for inviting the Society for Women's Health Research to share comments during today's public meeting on fezolinetant for the treatment of menopause-related VMS. My name is Irene Ananya, and I'm the Chief Science Officer for the Society for Women's Health Research. SWHR is a more than 30-year-old nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting research on biological sex differences in disease and improving women's health through science, policy, and education. We engage in programs throughout the year that convene interdisciplinary groups of experts in research, clinical care, policy, and patient advocacy to identify knowledge gaps and unmet needs related to diseases, conditions, and life stages that differently, disproportionately, or solely affect women. This work includes menopause. SWHR has developed tools and resources to promote the health and wellness of women transitioning to menopause, including the release of a menopause preparedness toolkit in 2022. And we continue to encourage thought leaders and policymakers to take a lifespan approach when it comes to the health of women, considering how life stages such as puberty, pregnancy, and menopause could affect other aspects of a woman's health. During today's meeting, I will reiterate some of SWHR's comments and concerns as they relate to ICER's review of fezolinetant, as well as some of the concerns that have been raised by our peers in women's health. Chief among these concerns is that when it comes to women experiencing menopause-related vasomotor symptoms, the value of choice cannot be overlooked or understated. As this group is aware, women have limited pharmacologic treatment options for VMS, and these options are even more limited when it comes to non-hormonal therapies. Moreover, for some women, non-hormonal therapies may be their only option. Value assessments must consider and prioritize patient response, patient preferences, and the types of medical interventions currently on the market. As a first-in-class, once-daily non-hormonal treatment for VMS, fezolinetant has a potential to fill a gap, a very needed gap in the current marketplace, and would allow for enhanced treatment options for a substantial population of U.S. women experiencing challenges with vasomotor symptoms. These women have unique needs and preferences and deserve treatment options that are tailored to their circumstances. Beyond the importance of providing women with more diverse treatment options, SWHR also has concerns about the analysis itself and how it could impact women's health, women across this, and how it could impact women's access to this treatment. As the National Menopause Foundation emphasized in its written comments, this assessment was conducted before fezolinetant was approved by the FDA and made available to the public. As a result, the analysis is absent of information on how this treatment might work for a sizable and diverse population of women dealing with menopause-related VMS. Clinical data, while important, is not sufficient for determining value. Patient-reported outcomes, patient preference studies, and real-world evidence are key to account for different population experiences and outcomes. Further, because of certain acknowledgments made in the report, such as the fact that there have not been any head-to-head trials with active comparators, SWHR is concerned that ICER's findings create uncertainty and leave much room for interpretation for creating coverage and access decisions. Women in menopause should have access to all treatment options, and we are concerned that ICER's review could result in the treatment being cost prohibitive. Finally, SWHR would like to raise its concern about how this review does not account for future research and development efforts related to fezolinetant. The creation of this non-hormonal treatment represents an important step forward in scientific innovation for menopausal women, beyond its potential to fill an important gap that provides new and beneficial treatment options to women. Fezolinetant also has the potential to evolve and improve over time. SWHR encourages ICER to account for the promise of scientific discoveries and evolution related to this treatment and the possibility for it to be used in combination with other menopause treatments. Once again, we thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment today and look forward to working with ICER to ensure that women undergoing menopause have access to treatments that can improve their well-being and quality of life, and to ensure that they can engage in shared decision-making with their healthcare providers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ananian. Clearly, very important to highlight the importance of options, and to what we're trying to hopefully do is make sure these options are safe and available for all women once proved safety. Any comments from the ICER staff or any of the CEPAC members?
I would just make the comment, thank you, that and thank you for your comments, that the economic analysis here, to your first point, did in fact focus on women who cannot or will not take hormonal therapies. So the analysis looking at the value of this therapy is in specifically that group that you were asking that we do the analysis in. So hopefully that was clear in the report. But when we're talking about how much value this therapy provides, it is in that group of women who cannot or will not take hormonal therapies.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you, David. And okay, I don't see any other hands up, and we're pretty close to our break time. So Steve, I'm going to hand it to you, and we go from there.
Sure. Thanks, everybody. So we are scheduled to return at 12:50 p.m. Central Time, pardon me, 1:50 on the East Coast. So thank you. And at that point, we will take up the discussion again on the evidence, and we'll start our voting process. Thanks again to our public commenters. I really appreciate your participation, and the comments will be addressed further as we continue in the discussion later in the day. All right, we'll see you at 10 minutes before the hour.